So, welcome back to another walkthrough. For this week, we are looking at our final Excel chapter. We're looking at Excel 16G expenses. And let's begin. Let's go ahead and download our materials. Let's click on our assignment. And we're going to go ahead and download materials. And do not download all materials. Make sure you download each file individually. And then we can go ahead and open up our Excel document. Now this walkthrough won't be as crazy as the one we had last week. Last week's was pretty long, pretty in-depth. This one isn't nearly as long. So that's kind of nice. We are not going to be doing the same thing to multiple worksheets. So, very first thing we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit here just so you can see a little bit better. So the very first thing we want to do is in the expenses worksheet, which we're at the expenses worksheet. It wants us to calculate row totals for each expense item in F5 to F9 and calculate column totals. So we're going to do something very easy here. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to highlight B5 all the way down to F10. So I'm going to highlight this range here. So what I'm highlighting is all the values, and I'm going to highlight where all of those sums would go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my Home tab under my editing group, and I'm going to click on Auto Sum right here. And watch when I do that, it puts all of the formulas in for me automatically in one fell swoop. I don't have to go through, I don't have to type in any formulas, I don't have to copy formulas. If I highlight the range where I want to do all of my calculations, I just highlight the range, including the total rows and total column, hit the button, and it totals everything for me. So that's it. We are done with step number 3. Now I'm going to show you a couple other different ways that we could have done this. When I hit the undo button, I could have come over here and I could have clicked on F5 and I could have hit auto sum, which would have auto summed this entire thing here. Hit enter, and there it is. And I could have clicked on this, hovered over this little dot right here, and click, hold, and drag it down, which would have copied that formula down. So what happens when you copy this formula down, it tailors it for each individual row. So notice the one that I put here, it says equals sum B5 colon E5. But when I copied it down to here, it changed it to B6 to E6. And when I copied it down here, it copied it to B7 to E7. So it copied it all the way down for me. And I could do the same thing here. I could actually click on cell B10, come up here to my editing group, click on auto sum. Once again, it would put it in for me. I'd hit enter, and there it is. And then I could copy this over. So I could click on here. This little dot right here is my autofill handle. It allows me to copy the formula all the way over. And notice that it puts it in for me. So I'm going to go ahead and hit undo, undo, undo all that. And then also another thing that you could do is you could actually come up here to the FX button, which is our formula button. And I could find sum. I could search for it here, or I could find sum here. I'm just going to go ahead and click on sum, hit OK. And notice that it automatically puts everything in for me because it knows, it's pretty smart, it knows exactly what numbers I want to add together. And I just hit OK, and it puts it in for me as well. So there are a lot of different ways you can do the exact same thing in Excel. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go back and do the first thing I did here. Just put everything back in. That way it looks good. It wants me to format F6 to F9 with the comma style. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight F6 to F9. I'm going to highlight this row here, F6 to F9, and I'm going to make it a comma style. I'm going to click on comma style up here. And it wants 0 decimal places, so I'm going to come down here to my little icons right here. One says increase decimal, one says decrease decimal. I'm going to click on decrease decimal, 2 spaces. So now it's a comma style with 0 decimal places. So now in G5, it wants me to construct a formula that will give me a percent of total sales. So what I want to do is I want to take our total sales of salary and benefits, and I want to find out what the percentage of sales of the actual annual total, the entire thing. So I'm going to go ahead and construct my formula by hand. So let's go ahead and click on cell G5 and go ahead and hit the equal sign. When you hit the equal sign, that tells Excel that it is expecting some type of a formula. In this case, our formula, we're just going to do a quick division of numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and click on F5. Notice that it puts F5 in here for me. I'm going to hit the division key, which is the backslash here. And I'm going to divide it by F10. So my formula so far is going to be equal F5 divided by F10. But we are going to be copying this formula down. So when I showed you here, when we copied this formula down, it tailors it to each individual row. So if I were to copy this formula down as is, it would change the formula here. It would say equal F5 divided by F11. The problem with that is there is nothing in F11. And then if I was to copy it down again, it would say F7 divided by F12. Well, there's nothing in F12. So I would get an error if I were to copy this formula down. So what I need to do is I need to make F10 an absolute cell reference, meaning no matter how much I copy this formula down, it will always refer back to F10. To do that, for my Windows users who are using a standard keyboard, at the top of your keyboard there's a button called the F4 key. If you hit the F4 key, it will put a $ before and after the F. Now if you have a laptop, most of the time those are multi-purpose keys. So oftentimes you'll have to hold down the FN key that's down by your space bar and hit the F4 key. For my Mac users, I don't even think you have an F4 key. So if you don't have an F4 key, all you need to do is put a $ before and after the F. So for you, just type in manually $F $10, and that'll achieve the same goal. So now once my formula reads equal F5 divided by $F $10, I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to give me a decimal place because I haven't formatted it to a percent yet. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this formula down. So I'm going to go ahead and click in cell G5. I'm going to go ahead and hover over that little dot right there. I'm going to click, hold, and drag it all the way down to G9. And when I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly show you. Notice that it changed it to F6 to F10. Notice how now it says F7 to F10. It says F8 to F10. So it tailored it for each row, but that second number always refers back to this F10, and that's what that absolute cell reference does. So now I want to do the percent sign here. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight back G5 to G9. I'm going to make sure all of them are highlighted. I'm going to come back to my Home tab under my number grouping. I'm going to click on the percent sign, which will turn it into a percent. And it wants me to center it. So I'm going to go ahead and come to the alignment group here and center. So there I have it. And now I can take a look real quick and see that salary and benefits is 33% of my total sales that I've done. Machinery and equipment is 13% of my total. So it just gives you a quick glance of what your percents are. So now I want to put in a 3D pie chart, as I need to highlight A5 down to A9, hold down the control key and highlight F5 to F9. So I want the annual totals. So I want to highlight A5 to A9, and I want to highlight F5 to F9. Then I want to do insert. Then I want to come to my charts. I want to click on the chart here and do a 3D pie chart. And what that does is it takes the actual annual totals. So the totals is what I wanted. I wanted the annual totals for each item. So highlight A5 to A9, highlight F5 to F9 by holding down the control key. Go to the insert tab, under charts, hit the 3D pie. It wants us to move this to a new sheet. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to go ahead and click on my chart here. And I'm going to come up to my chart design. And where it says location here, I want to hit move chart. I want to move it to a new sheet. And that sheet, I want to rename it. So I'm going to get rid of chart 1. And I want to name it annual expenses chart. So annual expenses chart, and go ahead and hit OK. And what that will do is it will move it to a new sheet for me called annual expense chart. So for step number 5, it wants me to change the chart title. So I'm going to come up here to my chart title. I'm going to click on it once. I'm going to go ahead and click on it again to put my cursor inside the chart title. I'm going to use my arrow keys. I'm going to delete the chart title. And I'm going to type in summary of annual expenses. Once I've typed in summary of annual expenses, make sure you capitalize the S, the A, and the E. I'm going to click on the outer border so my cursor is outside, not in there anymore. The whole thing is selected. Once I click on the outer border, I'm going to go to the Home tab here under my font group. I want to change the font size to 28. So it's going to make that a little bit bigger for me. For step number 6, it wants me to remove the legend from the chart and add data labels. So to get rid of our legend, I'm going to come over here to this corner, top right corner, and notice there's a plus sign right here. I'm going to click on that plus sign, and I'm going to uncheck legend. And notice that that legend that was down at the bottom is now gone. And I want to put data labels inside this pie chart. So I'm going to put a check mark next to data labels. And I want to format them, so I'm going to click on the arrow next to data labels right here. And I want to click on more options. It will bring up my format data labels sidebar here. And it wants me to only have category name and percentage. So I'm going to put a check mark next to category name. I'm going to uncheck value. I'm going to put a check mark next to percentage. And I'm going to uncheck show leader lines. So I just want category name and percent. It also wants me to center them. So I'm going to come down here to label position. I'm going to hit center. It wants me to do bold italics and size 12 font. So make sure all of them are selected, and notice that they are all selected. Notice that there are dots going around all of them, a box and a dot. I'm going to click on my Home tab here. I'm going to do bold. I'm going to click B for bold. I'm going to click I for italics. And I'm going to change the font size to 12. So there it is. Now I can see what each pie represents in my chart. For step number 7, it wants me to format the data series. I need to come over here to my actual chart. Notice that my data labels are still selected. I need to click on one of the pie charts just once. And when I click on the pie chart, notice how it deselects my labels. And it puts a dot around all of the different pies. And you need to make sure that you have dots around each one of the pies. That way that shows that the whole chart is selected, not just one individual piece. Once you have that selected, now I can click on my pentagon shape here. I can click on my bevel, select the first bevel. Notice now as I click each of these first round bevels for top and bottom, notice how this is now starting to round out a little bit. And now I can change my width to 50. I can change my height to 50. I can change the bottom bevel, I can change it to 256. And I can go ahead and change the height to 256 as well. And notice that it turns it now into a frisbee looking pie chart. So I apologize there. I did not deselect my data labels. So there we have it. So top bevel is round, bottom bevel is round, and then make sure width, height for the top bevel are 50, and make sure the width, height for the bottom bevel is 256. All right, so for step number 8, it now wants me to display the series options. So I'm going to come back over here to my Format Data Series. I'm going to click on my little chart here where it says Series Options. It wants me to rotate the first slice to 125. So where it says Angle of First Slice, I'm going to change it to 125 and hit Enter. And it's going to rotate it around so Salary and Benefits, the bigger of the slices, is right in front. And it wants me to explode the Salary and Benefit slice to 10%. So right now, if I was to hit Pie Explosion, because I have the entire chart selected, it would explode everything. So I'll just give you an example of that. I'm going to hit 10 here. Notice how it explodes all the pies out 10%. That is not what I want to do. I want to make sure that I have dots going only around my salary and benefits. So I'm going to click on Salary and Benefits. And notice when I click on Salary and Benefits, now I only have dots going around Salary and Benefits. There's no dots at these other pies. So now this is the only pie that is selected. And now I can go ahead and change it to 10% and hit Enter. And notice now it only pulls out the Salary and Benefits pie slice by 10%. So this is what you want, what it wants to look like right here. For step number 9, I now want to format the chart area. So to select the chart area, I'm going to come up here to my chart design, and I'm going to click on my chart format tab right here. So under my chart format tab, under my current selection right here, I have series 1 point selected. If I hit the down arrow, I can select whatever it is that I want in the chart. In this particular case, I want to select the chart area. So when I click on this, it will deselect my pie, and now the chart area is selected. It wants me to apply a gradient fill. So I'm going to come over here to my Format Chart area. I'm going to click on the paint can spilling over. And I want to hit the down arrow where it says Fill. And I want to do a gradient fill. I also want to use a preset, so I want to find where it says Gradient Presets right here. I'm going to hit the down arrow. It wants me to select the first column, second one. So first column, second one right here. This color right here, the second one down in the first column. It also wants me to format the border. So I'm going to come down here to where it says border. I'm going to click on border. You might have to scroll down a little bit to find it, but click on border. And it wants me to do a solid line border. So I'm going to click on solid line. And for the color, I'm going to hit the down arrow. It wants me to select the fourth column, first color. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here's the fourth. It looks like dark green for me. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And it wants me to change the width to 3 points. So where it says width right here, I'm going to change this to 3 points. And notice now I have a thick green border going around my chart. Now it wants me to display the page setup dialog box. So I'm going to come here to my page layout tab. Under my page layout tab, under page setup, I'm going to click on this little guy right here, which is my page setup dialog box. It wants me to insert a custom footer in the left section. So I'm going to click on the header footer, custom footer, and in the left section I want to put in the file name and hit OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And that's it. We are done with our chart. We have now made edits to our chart, and it made it look a little bit nicer. We made it a little 3D effect. We've exploded our salary and benefits pie to make it a little bit more prominent. And we've just given it some nice colors and editing done to it. So we're done with this little sidebar here. I'm going to hit the X right here. So I'll close out that sidebar. And I want to go to the expenses worksheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click back down here to my expenses worksheet. And it wants me, using the quarter names and the totals by quarter, it wants me to insert a line with markers chart. So I'm going to highlight B4 over to E4. And it wants me to do totals by quarter. So I'm going to hold down my control key, and I'm also going to highlight B10 all the way over to E10. So I want this range, B4 to E4, and I want B10 to E10 highlighted. And I'm going to go to my Insert tab. From my Insert tab, I'm going to come to my charts here, and I'm going to find the ones that says Line Chart. I'm going to click the down arrow. It wants me to do a line chart with markers. So right here it says Line with Markers. It looks like the fourth option over. So now that I have my line chart in here, it wants me to move it so that the upper left corner is positioned slightly inside the upper left corner of A12. So notice if I hover over this blank area right here, my cursor turns into 4 arrows, all pointing away from each other. That's my move handle. So I'm going to go ahead and click, hold, and drag. And I'm going to drag this so that my top left corner is inside of A12. So right about there, and let go. So my top corner here is in cell A12. It wants me to change the width of the chart to 7.5. So with the chart selected, I'm going to come up here to my Format tab. And I want to change my width from 5 to 7.5 and hit enter. And notice that will take my chart and make it a little bit longer. It also wants me to type Recreation Department Expense Summary as the chart title. So I'm going to click on the chart title once. I'm going to click on it again. I'm going to use my arrow key to delete that. And I'm going to type in Recreation Department Expense Summary. And then just go ahead and deselect it so we can get out of the chart title. So now for step number 12, I want to change some of my axes. So notice right here, I have a lot of space at the bottom of my chart. I can change these numbers to make it look a little bit nicer. So to do that, I'm going to come to my vertical axis. I'm going to right click on my vertical axis, and I'm going to hit Format Axis. And over here, it's going to give me my Format Axis sidebar. And under Bounds, I want to change the minimum. So I'm going to highlight minimum. I want to type in 2, 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. And then for my major, right here where it says major, I want to change this to 50,000. So 50000 and hit enter. And notice what that does is it takes this starting number and makes it 2.1 million or 2,100,000. And it changes the amount that we increase up by 50,000. And what that does is it kind of spreads out my chart a little bit and makes it look a little bit nicer. It wants me to apply bold to the values on the vertical axis. All right, well, right now my vertical axis is selected. Notice that I have the dots going around it. I'm just going to come up to my Home tab here, and I'm going to hit B, which will bold all of those on my vertical axis. Now I want to click where it says quarter 1. I want to click on quarter 1. Notice how it selects all of these labels. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on the B to bold it, and that will bold quarter 1, 2, and 3. And it wants me to close the sidebar here. So I'm going to click on the X on the sidebar here. And it wants me to go ahead and click in cell A1 to deselect my chart. So that's it. My line chart looks pretty good. It gives me a visual reference of what my data is doing. So now for step number 13, it wants me to copy the annual totals in cell F10. So I'm going to come up here to F10. I'm going to highlight F10, just click on F10. I'm going to right click and hit copy. Then I'm going to come down here to B35. I'm going to come up to, I'm going to go ahead and click in cell B35. I'm going to come up to my clipboard area where it says paste. I'm going to hit the down arrow next to paste. It wants me to paste values and number formatting. So this second one right here, values and number formatting. So I want to click on that and notice that it will copy my value down here. And the reason why I wanted to do values and not just copy this, because this is actually a formula. So if I would have copied this, I'm going to go ahead and hit the escape key to get rid of that. If I would have copied this, it would have copied the formula. I needed to copy just the value. So this now copied the value down here. So if something were to change up here, it wouldn't change down here. So what I need to do is I need to construct a formula that will increase my sales each year by 3.5%. So I'm going to go ahead and click in cell C35, and I'm going to build this from scratch. So I'm going to hit the equal sign. We're going to type in B35, so B35. Notice how it highlights B35. I'm going to do the multiplication symbol, which is the asterisk. I'm going to open up my parentheses. I'm going to type in B31. I want to make it an absolute cell reference. I'm going to hit the F4 key. And I want to do plus 100. But I want to make sure I put the percent in there. And what that's doing is it's taking this B31, it's taking this percent and making it into a decimal. So I'm going to go ahead and close my parentheses here. So my formula should be equals B35, the asterisk for multiplication, open parentheses, B31, make it an absolute cell reference, make sure it has the $ before and after the B, the plus sign, 100%, and close your parentheses. Hit enter. So now that I've typed in this, the number is too big for me to see. I'm going to go ahead and click on cell B35. I'm going to come up here to my home tab under my clipboard. I'm going to click on Format Painter, and I'm going to click on cell C35, and that will make the formatting the same, which will make the number a little bit smaller. So now I can see it instead of changing the actual size of this column. And now I want to copy that formula over, so I'm going to go ahead and click on cell C35, get that little dot, I'm going to click hold and drag it all the way over. And it should copy the format for me. So notice how now I don't have those two decimal places. When I copied this formula over, it copied the formatting with it. So we're going to change the orientation of this worksheet to landscape. So I'm going to come up here to my page layout tab here. From my page layout tab, I'm going to change the orientation to landscape. It wants me to scale to fit. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this little dot right here, my page setup dialog box. And right here where it says fit, I'm going to hit fit to 1 by 1. So put 1 here and 1 there, hit OK. Oh, it wanted me to go back into that page setup. So I'm going to come back up here to page setup, click on my page setup dialog box. It wants me to click on margins. It wants it centered horizontally on the page. So make sure you put a check mark there. And it wants me to insert a custom footer. So I'm going to click on header footer, custom footer. And in the left section, I'm going to put the file name. So I'm going to click on this icon right here. And I'm going to hit OK and hit OK. And I want to hit the save button to save our progress so we don't lose anything. So now this is looking pretty good. So we have a forecast of what our 5-year sales or expenses are going to be. We have a chart that gives us an idea of what our data is doing. And then we have all of our data here. So now we want to click on the enrollment worksheet. So I'm going to come down here and click on enrollment. And it looks like it wants me to insert a funnel chart that shows resident workshop participation for the first year using the range A4 to B6. So I'm going to highlight A4 to B6. I'm going to highlight this right here. And it wants me to insert a funnel chart. So I'm going to come to my Insert tab here. Under my Insert tab, I'm not sure which one of these is a funnel chart. Looks like it's this one right here. I'm going to click the down arrow. And I want to click on Funnel Chart right here. And notice that it will put a funnel chart into my worksheet. It wants me to change the height of this chart to 2.5. So I'm going to come up here to my chart design. I'm going to click on the Format tab here. Where it says height, I'm going to change it to 2.5. Hit enter. And the width, I'm going to change to 3. And now it wants me to drag this chart. So I'm going to hover over here, this blank spot, get that move handle. It wants me to click, hold, and drag it so that the upper left-hand corner is in cell A9. So it looks like right about here. So I'm going to move it so my left corner is inside cell A9. It wants me to change the chart title. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here a little bit, make this a little bit easier to see. I'm going to click on chart title. I'm going to click on it again to put my cursor in there. I'm going to use the backspace key. And I'm going to type in enrollment analysis. I'm going to go ahead and click on cell A1. I want to go to my page layout tab here, and I'm going to click on my page setup dialog box, this little button here. It wants me to center the worksheet horizontally, so make sure it says portrait here. I'm going to click on margins. I'm going to center horizontally. And it wants me to put a header footer, custom footer, and in the left section, I want to click on the insert file name. Go ahead and hit OK and hit OK. So for step number 16, it wants me to display the county partnership. And it says the city of Pacifica Bay is partnering with the county to offer workshops to residents. The Recreation Department staff will visit several cities with similar partnership agreements using the range A3 to B9. So I'm going to highlight A3 to B9. It wants me to insert a filled map chart. So let's go ahead and go to my Insert tab here. That's what I want right here. So I'm going to click on Maps. And I'm going to do a filled map chart right here. So I'm going to click on Filled Map. And that's pretty cool. It gives me a map here. It says data needed to create your map will be sent to Bing. I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. That's okay. So now it says change the chart title to partnership analysis. So I'm going to go ahead and click on chart title here. I'm going to click on it again. I'm going to use my arrow key. I'm going to change the chart title to partnership analysis. And it wants me to go ahead and drag this chart. So I'm going to click out here on this blank white area here. Get the 4 arrows pointing away from each other. I'm going to click, hold, and align the upper left corner with D1. So I'm going to find where it says D1. So right about here, looks like, inside D1. Wants me to change the chart width to 4. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Format tab here. I'm going to change the width right here to 4 and hit Enter. It's going to make it a little bit more narrow. It wants me to deselect the chart, so I'm going to go ahead and deselect the chart. I'm going to click on cell A1. It wants me to change the orientation of this sheet to landscape, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the Page Layout tab here. Where it says Orientation, we're going to change it to Landscape. And now we are going to center this horizontally. So I'm going to click on my little page setup dialog box button here. Under margins, I'm going to center it on page horizontally. I'm going to go ahead and do a header footer. I'm going to click on custom footer. It wants me to put in the file name in the left section. So file name in the left section, hit OK. Go ahead and hit OK. And we want to add in our workbook properties. So I'm going to hit the File tab here. I'm going to select Info, Show All Properties. It wants me to add a tag of Recreation Workshops, comma, space, expenses. Under, make sure expenses is spelled correctly. Under subject, type in CGS. And where it says author Go Series, right click on Go Series, hit remove person, and then add an author. Go ahead and put your name. Put your name as the author. And that's it. We're done. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I'm going to save it again for good measure. I'm going to cross my fingers because this was a longer assignment than I expected. And I'm going to come here. I'm going to exit out of my downloading starting materials. I'm going to choose my file. I'm going to go to my downloads folder. There we go. I'm going to click on downloads. There's my student file. Hit open, upload, and submit for grading. I'm going to close out of my assignment. I'm going to come back here to my assignments. I'm going to hit the three dots, hit view submissions. And after all of that, I got a 96%. I don't know why. I'm going to click on view submissions here. And I'm going to scroll down. It looks like I missed 2 points. Under step 6, it says the data labels in the pie was not set to center. I thought I set it to center, but maybe I did that wrong. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. And it says I did something here. Recreation workshops and expenses were not entered properly. I must have misspelled something. Feel free, if you are not happy with your grade, go back, redo it for the best grade possible. And that concludes our walkthrough. Next week we will not have a walkthrough for Access. So have a wonderful day.